Hello Internet, and welcome back to my series of film reviews. Last time we covered Mission Impossible 3, and now I want to take a look at the first film that is part of Phase 4 of the MCU. A phase consisting of not only movies, but Disney Plus shows as well. Today, we are taking a look at Black Widow. Black Widow was originally set to release theatrically in 2020, but due to the COVID-19 pandemic fucking up cinema as we know it, this movie was hit with delay after delay. Eventually, it released on July 9, 2021, but there was a catch. Not only was it released in theaters, but it was also released through the Disney Plus Premier Access program, in which Disney Plus subscribers had to pay $29.99 to watch it, and was one of 5 movies to get this treatment before it died with Jungle Cruise. Since then, all subsequent movies in the MCU, Phase 4 and beyond, went straight to theaters, starting with Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings. The simultaneous theatrical and streaming release even resulted in a lawsuit from Scarlett Johansson herself. I wanted to cover this movie before the release of Thunderbolts, but I might consider reviewing the rest of the MCU, starting with Iron Man before Avengers Doomsday. And I reviewed this movie on my old channel as Sonic and Shonic, so it would be nice to revisit it. Plus, I watched this movie in both formats, first on Disney Plus and another time at the theater. This movie is directed by Kate Shortland, who had only directed 3 other films before this, and it follows Natasha Romanoff, or Black Widow, played for the final time by Scarlett Johansson following her sacrifice in Avengers Endgame. This movie takes place between the events of Captain America Civil War and Avengers Infinity War, as it shows Natasha on the run after stopping T'Challa for bringing in Bucky Barnes, who would later become a member of the Thunderbolts. Joining her in this movie is the colorful cast consisting of Florence Pugh as Yelena Belova, who's like a sister to Natasha, and then we have David Harbour as Alexei Shostakov, or the Red Guardian, who's Russia's answer to Captain America. There's Ray Winstone as the film's main antagonist, General Dreykov. His name was briefly mentioned by Loki in the Avengers, as he is threatening Natasha to destroy all that she holds dear, before calling her a mewling quib.
Dreykov's daughter. Sao Paulo. The hospital fire. Barton told me everything.
There's Rachel Weisz as Melina Vostokov, a Black Widow spy who is a mother figure to Natasha and Yelena. O.T. Fagbenley as Rick Mason, an ally to Natasha who supplies her with things she needs. O.T. Fagbenley would later reprise the role in one episode of Secret Invasion, which I consider to be rock fucking bottom for Marvel and Disney Plus. And thank God Secret Invasion was not required viewing for the Marvels. But if it's required viewing for Avengers Doomsday, God help us all. There's Olga Krylenko as a gender-swap version of Taskmaster, an adversary to Spider-Man and other Marvel heroes. Olga Krylenko would later reprise the role in Thunderbolts, in which her name was not listed on a chair for the Avengers Doomsday cast reveal, unlike Sebastian Stan, Florence Pugh, David Harbour, Louis Pullman, and Hannah John Kamen. And this movie marks the final appearance of William Hurt as Thaddeus Ross, before his death in 2022, in which Harrison Ford took over the role in Captain America Brave New World. This video will contain spoilers to Black Widow, so if you have not seen it yet, please do so before watching this video. With that said, here's my thoughts on Scarlett Johansson's swan song as Natasha Romanoff. This is Black Widow. The movie starts off in the year 1995, which is actually the year I was born, funny enough, and it was also the year in which the events of Captain Marvel takes place. In Ohio, a young Natasha Romanoff, played by Ever Anderson, daughter of Paul W.S. Anderson and Mila Jovovich, and who played Wendy in the Disney Plus original movie Peter Pan and Wendy, is living with Alexei, Melina, and a young Yelena. In the opening scene, Natasha is clearly trying to base her appearance on Ramona Flowers because her hair is blue in this scene. And what I really love about this opening scene is how Natasha and Yelena use a secret whistle, as if they were both characters from the Hunger Games. This is something that I plan on incorporating into the Sonic and Shonic series to show that Sonic and Shonic remain connected no matter how far apart they are. That, and the fact that 95% of videos on this channel consist of me recording myself whistling, be it YouTube or TikTok. Thank you for that, Sonic and Shonic. So anyway, Natasha and Yelena are playing in the yard, when Yelena falls and hurts herself, and then Melina comes out and shows her a bunch of fireflies floating around the night sky. We then have a nice family dinner, in which it's revealed that this suburban family is actually a fucking bullshit lie, because Alexei and Melina are undercover agents, which they are the surrogate parents of Natasha and Yelena. And we see that Yelena's favorite food is mac and cheese, because she asked for it for dinner, and it's later brought back in the Hawkeye miniseries on Disney Plus, when she comes face to face with Kate Bishop for the first time.
Kate Bishop.
Hi. I made macaroni if you want some.
I'm sorry, what?
Well, I was starving and you took forever, so I wanted to make food.
And we see that Yelena's favorite song is American Pie by Don McLean, which plays on a cassette tape as the family is on the run from S.H.I.E.L.D. Or is it Hydra? Who the hell knows? We later hear David Harbour singing the song in his most convincing Russian accent. And it's one of my personal favorite songs too, despite the song being 8 minutes long, and it covers real-life news of the day the music died, which refers to the plane crash that killed iconic 1950s singers Buddy Holly, the Big Bopper, and Ritchie Valens. And anybody who knows me knows that despite me being born in 1995, and used to hearing modern songs on the radio from the 2000s on, knows that I love oldies, even ones that most people my age have probably never heard. I'd go over a list of my favorite 1950s and 1960s songs, but that would make this video longer than it needs to be. Alexei and Melina steal S.H.I.E.L.D. intel and are pursued by S.H.I.E.L.D. Or is it Hydra? It's never mentioned if the S.H.I.E.L.D. agents chasing down the Black Widow family are undercover Hydra operatives, because Captain America the Winter Soldier made me question whose side certain S.H.I.E.L.D. agents are on. I'm looking at you, Grant Ward from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. After Melina is shot during the escape sequence, they make it to Cuba, where Dreykov has Natasha and Yelena taken to the Red Room and trained to be Black Widow assassins against their will, along with many other girls in the most gut-wrenching opening credits sequence, in which you hear a cover of Smells Like Teen Spirit by Nirvana. And I find it crazy how when it comes to opening credits sequences in post-Endgame Marvel films, how they went from a somber cover of Smells Like Teen Spirit to Deadpool killing TVA agents and dancing to Bye 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 in Deadpool and Wolverine. The title cards for whenever we're at a new location were taken straight out of Captain America Civil War, which is another dead giveaway that this movie takes place between Captain America Civil War and Avengers Infinity War. And so, by stunning T'Challa at the airport in Germany, Natasha technically violated the Sokovia Accords, so now she's on the run, and so is Captain America technically. And she hides out in a safe house in Norway, where she meets her contact Rick Mason, who supplies her with essential items that she needs to stay undercover, like passports and all that. In the modern day, Yelena is still an assassin working for the Red Room. In the opening credits sequence, we see the Red Room training girls for their Black Widow program to become merciless assassins. And sometime before the events of Iron Man 2, Natasha defected to S.H.I.E.L.D. after helping Clint Barton bomb Dreykov's office, which apparently kills Dreykov and his daughter, as mentioned by Loki in the Avengers. But we see that Dreykov is actually alive and still has eyes on everything, and has full control over the Black Widows. Yelena is sent on an assignment in Morocco, and she kills a former widow, who sprays her with a synthetic gas that removes the Red Room's control over her. So, it looks like the Winter Soldier's not the only brainwashed assassin in this universe. Yelena sends the canisters of the synthetic gas to Natasha's safe house in Norway, in hopes that she will come and help her free the other widows. But as Yelena removes her tracker, we see that Dreykov is alive and watching everything, and so he sends the Taskmaster to do his dirty work. And we see that Natasha is a fan of James Bond, as she is seen watching an old Roger Moore Bond film on her laptop, particularly Moonraker. And she even quotes it while watching a scene involving Bond and Hugo Drax, even though the only Guardians of the Galaxy she ever met were Rocket and Nebula and not Drax.
Why did you break off the encounter with my pet python? Because I discovered he had a crush on me.
As the safe house's generator runs out of fuel, Natasha goes out to get some more, and she's ambushed by Taskmaster on the bridge. And we get a pretty exciting action sequence in which Taskmaster mirrors Natasha's every move. Taskmaster is looking for the synthetic gas, and as Natasha escapes, she sees an old photo of her and Yelena taken from a photo booth, and realizes that Yelena was the one who sent it. And so, Natasha books it all the way to Budapest, where she reunites with Yelena and they have a fight, until they have a truce. Yelena tells Natasha about the synthetic gas, and how it's an antidote for the Black Widow's brainwashing. She also tells Natasha that Dreykov is alive, and that the Red Room is still active, even though Natasha believes Dreykov and his daughter to be dead after she and Clint Barton bombed his office. The sisters are then ambushed by Black Widow assassins sent by Dreykov, in which he forces one of the widows to kill herself. But as they escape, they're pursued by Taskmaster in a chase sequence that doesn't quite live up to Captain America the Winter Soldier. This movie came pretty close to being the next Captain America the Winter Soldier, but not quite. The same can be said about Captain America Brave New World. Natasha and Yelena steal a car, before Taskmaster blows it up with an explosive arrow, and they hide out in a subway station where Natasha tends to Yelena's wounded arm. Here we see up close and personal the very thing that Loki was taunting Natasha with in the Avengers. Dreykov's daughter was with her father when Natasha and Clint blew up his office. And one thing that Yelena questions about her sister is how she does what Deadpool calls a superhero landing. Every time she gets into a fight with anyone, be a Hydra agent, or Chitauri, or Ultron, or the rest of the Red Room assassins who are after her. And she's called a poser by her very own sister. Yelena even tries it later on in the movie, and she's just embarrassed by it.
Ugh, that was disgusting.
If Natasha and Yelena are gonna bring down the Red Room for good, they're gonna need all the help they can get. As to where Alexei is, he's in a Russian prison. But this is not the only time where David Harbour has to be broken out of a Russian prison. We also see this in Stranger Things, even though as of this video's upload, I'm only up to Season 2 of Stranger Things, and I'm trying to catch up before we get Season 5. Just like Steve Rogers, Alexei is also a super soldier who claims to have fought Captain America in the past. But we know that is bullshit because he's been frozen in ice for 70 years. One of the other inmates says it's bullshit too, and his fucking arm is broken because of it. And the Red Guardian even has an action figure of himself that has a hidden earpiece for Natasha and Yelena to communicate with him so that he can escape and be broken out of prison. So how do Natasha and Yelena break Alexei out of prison, you may ask? By calling Rick Mason for help as he supplies them with a helicopter. Alexei is the only one who has information on where Dreykov is, and that's why he's being broken out of prison by the two widows. And during this prison break scene, Natasha does another superhero landing, much to Yelena's embarrassment. Yelena even triggers an avalanche with a grenade launcher that buries the prison in snow. As they book it out of there, we learn about how the widows have to go through a surgical procedure about how they can't have babies, and how they don't get their periods.
Oh, Johnny, oh! Okay. Why the aggression, huh? Is it your time of the month?
I don't get my period, dipshit. I don't have a uterus.
Or ovaries.
Yeah, that's what happens when the Red Room gives you an involuntary hysterectomy. They kind of just go in and they rip out all of your reproductive organs. They just get right in there and they chop them all away. Everything out.
Okay.
So you can't have babies.
Okay, you don't have to get so clinical and nasty.
Oh, well, I was about to talk about fallopian tubes, but okay.
Alexei doesn't know where Dreykov is, but he does know someone who might, and it's none other than their mother figure Melina. And also the two widows aren't particularly happy to see him, because of how their family back in Ohio was never real, and that it was all a bullshit lie. But as they try to get to St. Petersburg, the helicopter runs out of fuel, and they make a crash landing in the middle of nowhere. But they're not far from where Melina is. She's living on a farm where she experiments on pigs, and there is even one pig that she named Alexei, much to the embarrassment of the Red Guardian himself. They have a family dinner where tensions rise because this family here has been nothing but one big fucking lie, and that it was never real. But it was real to Yelena. And then we see Alexei struggling to put on his Red Guardian suit because he gained a whole bunch of weight. Kinda like Mr. Incredible putting on his suit after he too gained so much weight since superheroes were outlawed. And Melina even whistles at him when she sees him in the Red Guardian suit.
It still fits.
Silver, don't you even fucking think about it! You know I don't do that anymore, Shadow! Not since I taught you how to whistle! Are you sure about that, Silver? Because I know you all too well that you whistle at people's new outfits. You might find Pothead the Porcupine, or what we sane people call a pervert! Fuck off, Shadow! When you've quite finished. You heard nothing, I swear! Good fucking Christmas. Anyway, where were we? Melina tells Natasha that her birth mother was searching for her until Dreykov had her killed. We don't know her mother's name, but we learn in Avengers Endgame that her father was named Ivan, while Clint's mother was named Edith, as revealed by the Red Skull as he watches over the Soul Stone on Vormir. And Yelena is still pissed off at Alexei, until he sings American Pie to her in David Harbour's most convincing Russian accent. When it comes to actors doing foreign accents for certain roles, the results are often mixed, like Dick Van Dyke's bad Cockney accent for Mary Poppins. And let's not forget Keanu Reeves and his awful British accent in Bram Stoker's Dracula. Hello there, Shadow the Bloody Hedgehog here. Don't mind me, I was just at the pub eating bangers and mash, and watching AFC Richmond practice at the Quidditch pitch with Ted Lasso and the Doctor. I beg your bloody pardon, Shadow, but that is not how you do a British accent, and you should never, ever attempt that kind of accent ever again. Sonic and Tails said to consult you on how to do a good British accent, because that's your natural speaking voice. So, also, listing British stereotypes. That's an all-time bloody lie. Just because you spent a good portion of Sonic the Hedgehog 3 at gun headquarters in London, doesn't mean you get to poke fun at us Brits. He has a point, Shadow! Stay out of this, Silver! But anyway, a lot of British actors can do a convincing American accent like Tom Holland, Charlie Cox, and Christian Bale to name a few. Same with Hugh Jackman being Australian. And I feel that David Harbour's Russian accent is very convincing for an American actor. And as Alexei and Yelena make up by singing American Pie, in comes Dreykov's agents who apprehend the entire Widow family. Turns out that Melina is still in cahoots with Dreykov and the Red Room, and revealed Natasha and Yelena's location to Dreykov. And so they are all brought to the Red Room, which is a floating fortress in the sky. But before they are brought to the Red Room, Natasha and Melina swap places using technology that disguises themselves as each other. Something that returns from Captain America the Winter Soldier. Kinda like the disguises Tails gives Tom and Maddie in Sonic the Hedgehog 3, where they change faces and are able to copy their voices. Unlike with Polyjuice Potion in the Harry Potter movies, where the drinkers keep their own voices. Natasha, disguised as Melina, comes face to face with Dreykov. It's here that Dreykov reveals that his daughter Antonia is alive after the explosion that supposedly killed her, and that she is indeed the Taskmaster who was sent to kill Natasha and Yelena, and is able to copy every Avengers moves, even Natasha's. And Natasha is unable to attack him because of a pheromone that prevents anyone from attacking him, whether it be with a knife, or a gun, or being punched in the fucking face. But he can beat Natasha around like a fucking ragdoll because he has that much control over not only her, but the other widows too. And he is indeed one of the most cold-blooded MCU villains ever put on screen since the High Evolutionary in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. Dreykov is the kind of villain to deserve to have the shit beat out of him, and soon he'll get what's coming. Meanwhile with the others, Melina, disguised as Natasha, knows how to open prison doors to free herself and Alexei. And as Yelena is about to have her head cut open by the Red Room, she escapes by using a blade to free herself as told by Melina. And Yelena even does a superhero landing as she escapes, much to her disgust. Dreykov also reveals to Natasha that he has control over Widow Station all across the world, like the cold-hearted predator he is. And how does Natasha get past the protective pheromone? By breaking her own fucking nose, thus severing the nerve, and rendering her able to beat the fucking shit out of the guy who clearly deserves it. And Melina manages to blow up one of the engines keeping the Red Room afloat, and it slowly starts to crash down to the ground below. Taskmaster does battle with the Red Guardian, and then he and Melina lock Taskmaster in a cell. But then, Dreykov escapes as the other widows close in on Natasha. But then, Yelena comes to the rescue as she unleashes the synthetic gas on all the widows, freeing them from Dreykov's control. And Natasha goes to Dreykov's control desk, allowing him to control the Widow Station all across the world, and she copies their locations from Dreykov's computer, just as the Red Room is going into a catastrophic meltdown. Natasha picks up 2 vials of the synthetic gas as the others escape. Alexei and Melina jump into a plane while Yelena takes out Dreykov's aircraft, killing him in the process.
Good riddance.
Natasha even frees Antonia from her cell, knowing that she will attack Natasha. They have one final battle as they fall to the ground below. But Natasha is able to skydive down to where Yelena is, and give her a parachute so she can get to the ground safely. And as Natasha and Taskmaster have one final battle, Natasha removes her helmet and sprays her with the antidote, thus freeing her from her father's control. They are then met by the other widows, who take Antonia in for recovery before she becomes a member of the Thunderbolts. As they bid farewell, Yelena gives Natasha a vest that she is seen wearing earlier on in the movie, a vest that Natasha would be seen wearing in Avengers Infinity War. After using one of the 2 vials of antidote on Antonia, Natasha gives the other to Yelena to free the widows all across the world. And as her former family is ready to depart, Yelena and Natasha then give one final whistle. At the very end of the movie in the post-credits scene, Yelena finds Natasha's gravestone and whistles at it, as if she was Katniss Everdeen whistling to the Mockingjays in the Hunger Games. And this whistle even comes back in the final episode of Hawkeye on Disney+.
How do you know that?
Your secret whistle with Nat. She talked about you all the time, Elena. She loved you. And always wanted you safe.
This right here is one of the reasons why there's a whole ton of whistling on this channel, especially yours truly. That and Sonic whistling a few times in the games, Sonic X, Sonic Boom, and a whole lot of other times. I already made a couple of videos on TikTok about how I became a show-off when it comes to whistling, so I need not repeat my story here, but it really is a fascinating story. Again with the whistles, guys? What? We can't help it. It's how we stay connected no matter how far apart we are, just like Natasha and Yelena in this movie. Thank you for that. But out of all of us, who's the real whistling show-off? Silence! On you, Joey! Just as Natasha and Yelena give one final whistle, we see Ross closing in on Natasha's location since she violated the Sokovia Accords. 2 weeks later, Natasha is seen with her hair dyed blonde, as seen in Avengers Infinity War, as she takes the Quinjet supplied to her by Rick Mason and frees the other Avengers from the raft, where Harrison Ford makes up with Liv Tyler at the end of Captain America Brave New World. In a post-credit scene, Yelena visits Natasha's grave and whistles at it. She's then met by Valentina Allegra de Fontaine, played by Julia Louis-Dreyfus, who gives her an assignment: to kill Clint Barton. And this leads to Florence Pugh's appearance in the Hawkeye Disney Plus series. I'm giving Black Widow a 7 out of 10. I will admit that most of Phase 4 and beyond ended up being mixed bags, consisting of forgettable and underwhelming entries in the forms of movies and Disney Plus shows, while occasionally having hits like WandaVision, Loki, and Spider-Man No Way Home. I felt that Black Widow was a solid start to Phase 4 movies. The standout for this movie is definitely Florence Pugh, and it's all about Natasha passing the baton over to her so she can be the next Black Widow after her sacrifice in Avengers Endgame. Although I felt that this movie was released far too late into the game, and could have worked better if it was released in Phase 3 after Captain America Civil War, but before Avengers Infinity War. That is one of my only gripes with Black Widow. Not only was Florence Pugh a standout, but also David Harbour as the Russian knockoff of Captain America. The action here is some of the best I've seen in a Marvel movie since Captain America the Winter Soldier. Some Marvel movies end up being in their own unique categories. For example, Guardians of the Galaxy and Ant-Man are under the comedy category, Doctor Strange is fantasy, a lot of them are science fiction, Captain America Brave New World is a political thriller, and movies like Captain America the Winter Soldier are best described as action films. And Black Widow falls under the same genre as Captain America the Winter Soldier. I'm glad we got to see Natasha's past before she became an Avenger, and how it comes back to haunt her as she's on the run for violating the Sokovia Accords by subduing T'Challa in Germany following the airport battle in Captain America Civil War. And I felt that it was weird to release a Black Widow movie after Avengers Endgame, because we already know her fate in Avengers Endgame. I think the only reason they released it after Avengers Endgame was because of the post-credit scene featuring Yelena mourning the loss of her sister. After watching this film again, I'm definitely excited to see more of Yelena, the Red Guardian, and the Taskmaster in Thunderbolts. Even though we can pretty much guess what happens to Taskmaster in the movie since we don't see Olga Kurylenko's name on a chair in Avengers Doomsday. Unlike the original X-Men cast including Kelsey Grammer, Patrick Stewart, Ian McKellen, Alan Cumming, James Marsden, and Rebecca Romijn. Dark Phoenix thought it could erase Rebecca Romijn out of existence by killing off Jennifer Lawrence's Mystique. HA! Good fucking riddance to that timeline! Black Widow, despite being released 5 years too late, is a solid entry in the Marvel Universe, filled with exciting action sequences, a great supporting cast, and it provides closure on the story of Natasha Romanoff before she passes the torch over to her sister Yelena. And Florence Pugh does a great job in not only this movie, but also her appearances in Puss in Boots: The Last Wish, Oppenheimer, and even Midsommar. And I'm excited to see more of her in Thunderbolts and Avengers Doomsday. Stay tuned for my upcoming review of Thunderbolts coming soon, as well as the rest of the Mission Impossible series, Snow White, Lilo and Stitch, How to Train Your Dragon, Superman, Fantastic Four, and much more. Till then, I'll see you all next time.